Well, in a complex society, problems are complex. And complex problems require complex solution. The easy way, the magic bullet often does not exist. That means that many of the stakeholders, many of the parties involved need to have an agreement amongst each other to do certain things in a certain way. And so basically a standard is an agreement between people on how things can be done in such a way that it adds value, solves problems, instead of creating problems. Well, I refer back to the complexity of the problems in the modern day and time. And so therefore many of the problems are complex in such a way that they are no more local, not even regional, not even national, but international and perhaps even intercontinental. Some of the problems related to major issues such as finances, transport, energy, water, communication. They are by definition international. And therefore you're better off by design developing international standards rather than a national standards, and then later with a lot of trouble and a lot of grief, a lot of irritation, trying to internationalize them afterwards. We say do it ahead of time. It's much smarter. Everyone. As the name indicates, it's the end user of anything that deals with security is, of course, the population at large. And at the end of the day, we're all part of the population. But also, when you look at critical infrastructure like water, transport, energy, IT, and so on, it is often seen by the population that this is a responsibility of government to maintain these services like energy, water, and so on. But the fact of the matter is that in Europe, approximately 90% of all these services are owned and operated by the private sector. So other than the population, the private sector and the public authorities are all to benefit from it. And public-private partnership between the public sector and the private industry is not an item of luxury, but one of necessity. I would highlight sort of two angles that you can take to this that I think is the most relevant. The first one is that when you talk about security, you do not only use a paper-based theoretical risk approach, but that you prepare yourself by considering the consequences once the risk have actually led to an event. Because the consequences are what everybody and everything involved is most concerned about. Everybody talks about risks, cybersecurity, pandemics, terrorism, climate change, but these are risks. You can increase them, you can decrease them. I mean, getting up in the morning is also a risk, and driving a car also. So the question is not whether you should be afraid of risk. I don't think you should be afraid of the risks. You should be afraid of the consequences. And that requires a change in mindset, because we have always looked at risks and not at consequences. One example is the difference between flying. A lot of people are afraid of flying. No, they're not afraid of flying. That is a risk. No, what they're afraid of, or should be, is the crash of an airplane. If that is the case, then call it as it is and prepare yourself, not just from this vague thing called flying, but prepare yourself from the viewpoint of a plane crashing. That's just a concrete example of consequence management. And the second one, of course, is what I mentioned before, is critical infrastructure. So all the products and services that we need every day to maintain our lives as we know it. And so focus on consequence management more, and think critical infrastructure. And I think then we make a huge stride forward.